So, call to order, it's 7 p.m. We'll go ahead and start our Nottingham Budget Committee meeting on October 5th. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then for our note keeper and anyone watching on TV, if we could do introductions, would you mind starting us off, Sandra?
Sandra Jones.
Robert Kelly.
Charlotte Fife.
John Decker.
Michael Kelly.
Owen Friend Gray.
Brent Tweed.
Thomas Butkevich. Jeffrey Morrison.
Megan Sabasco.
Ellen White.
Thank you. Seems like the entire budget committee is here. We're missing our Board of Select member who is stuck in traffic, unfortunately. Next item, approval of meeting minutes from our meeting on 9/21. We need to, if you guys need to, we can take a minute to flip through them and look at the edits that were submitted. Or if you have any other edits, we can take care of those too.
I did.
Mike, I just had like just two additional things. Line 50, just think it'd be more accurate to say that as opposed to accept the funds, to appropriate the funds. Definitely more accurate to say that we were authorizing the school to spend the funds, vice accept them. And then also if Mr. Kelly agrees, I thought this was Bob Kelly, this is Mike Kelly. But on line 108, it talks about the money going to the school. It might be just helpful to clarify that it's to be appropriated by the school in the two locations.
What was the second one?
The second line is 108.
So instead of go to the school, we'll say appropriate
Yeah.
by the school.
I mean, I just think it's important to clarify that because it's a very distinct thing to receive funds and to authorize to spend. I mean, we were specifically appropriating or authorizing those monies to be spent, so I think it's good to clarify that.
Oh, I see what you mean, okay.
Very good, sir.
Yeah.
I also,
So if it says if the funds aren't appropriated by the school, that's what you want it to say?
Yes.
Yep.
We'll change,
Or
instead
are
of go
not
to,
appropriated by the school?
in both
in
spots.
both spots.
Yep.
To the school.
Instead
and
of go to the school, we'll strike that and change both spots to appropriated
aren't
by the
appropriated.
school.
Okay.
And Susan Levinson was here, doesn't attend
In the public.
the public, right, and the others present, so line 8.
Okay.
Okay, yep.
And I had, right before, in line 49, oh, sorry, 49 to 50, it says this year the budget has already been exceeded, and that does not mean the entire budget had already been exceeded. Some budget lines had been exceeded, so I think just adding lines would be a more appropriate
On
comment.
line 49,
49 to
add
50, this year the
some budget lines.
budget lines, right. Because obviously-
Budget line items?
Line items, yeah, if we want to be specific, because it doesn't really specify. I think it says in some of the language, like the textbooks and things like that, those were the lines that were exceeded, but the budget's obviously not spent all year, so we certainly have not exceeded the entire budget, I would not like that.
And we did talk about that, I just
Yeah.
didn't make the,
This year, the budget lines
okay.
have,
All right, is there any more changes? I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of September 21st as amended.
I'll second.
All in favor of accepting the minutes from 9/21 with the amendments?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Aye.
So for the record, that was motion by John Decker, second by Jeff Morrison, 10 aye, 0 nay.
5, public comment. Can't understand why nobody wants to come to our meetings.
You could go over there and say that.
Item number 6, so the heavy lifting for tonight is the third quarter financials from the town. Kind of gives us a chance to look at them, see how the town is. And, you know, as we go through them, we can make notes of, you know, adjustments or changes we might need to make as we look at the coming budget for the next fiscal year, so.
Should we switch and talk about the school board warrant article and get that out of the way in case Ben shows up later to talk about the town stuff?
That's fine with me. Do we have to make a motion to?
I don't think we have to make a motion to go out of order.
Not if there's no objections.
Yeah.
Are there any objections if we go out of order? All right, good idea, Tom. So I was curious, I wasn't able to make the meeting, I've been working crazy hours. So I was curious how it went, school board last night.
It was quick,
Quick,
overwhelmingly yay, done.
okay.
Yeah, it was a big turnout, which was pretty impressive. I mean, it was standing room only. We had to divide up the entrance. I'd say, I don't know, 100-something people there.
Great.
So it was a lot of interest in it, which
Was it
was
in the
nice to
gym
see.
or in the library?
In the
Cafeteria.
cafeteria.
The
No, the library
cafeteria
was
was
not.
full.
Wow.
The cafeteria.
But yeah, half hour start to finish. I mean, we had to start late because it took so long to get through the line.
Because there was a line of people
There's a
at
line
6.
out the door.
Or at 6, so.
Everyone arrived at 6 because they thought it would start at 6 and there wouldn't be a lot of people there, and everyone arrived at 6, so.
And had to be checked in for, you know, voter.
No, it was,
They had to
So we
check in.
started the meeting with the pledge and all enough people were in the room so that she could clearly talk about what the warrant article was and everything. But we really were waiting for people to sit down before they could comment, because you had to have a voter card to comment.
Wow, that's great, there's so much interest.
yeah.
Megan, what percentage of the teachers live in town?
I'm not sure of that off the top of my head. There's certainly some teachers that live in town and you know, I mean, other school staff, so I don't have that information.
Well, Ben didn't show up yet.
I know.
Almost.
Good try.
Pretty quick, yeah.
We bought them a minute or two.
It's a good idea to switch and give him some time, though, Tom.
Yeah.
Is there any other stuff we can go through, or?
I wouldn't count on him being here.
No, I don't think we're gonna see
Okay,
it.
Mass traffic is, all
all right then.
right, well,
Well, you presumably know all this stuff.
Presenting.
Presumably.
You probably put this together.
No, I did not. Betsy did. I would just like to make a comment, page 1 through 4, the budget difference, there's something wrong with the formula. So if you
wondering
look,
that.
it's actually carrying forward the 2023 budget figure into the budget difference for the first couple of pages. But at the very end, it actually comes out correct when you're looking at the overall bottom line for the difference in the percentage, so.
So the formula must be corrected.
Yeah, there's a
somewhere
formula
along
break
the line.
somewhere.
What's the difference supposed to be calculating? Just the
It's gonna be the-
2023 budget minus the actual?
Correct.
Okay.
So your percentages and the difference will be incorrect for those first 4
All the
pages.
pages are wrong, but lines 382 and 381 appear correct.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the ones that were wrong, just on the online express, spreadsheet. Instead of minus in the 23 actuals, it's minus in the blank column for proposed budget 2024.
And then randomly you'll find where it calculates correctly, so I can't explain. All I can tell you is it's Excel.
Excel's fun.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there it goes. 370 is correct.
I think you guys could get rid of all the line items for the Mulligan Fire Station, Mulligan interest, Fire Station interest.
We do have some chart of account cleanup to do. Hopefully we'll do that before we get into,
Too bad we couldn't pay that
The new
one
year.
off.
That was a government loan, right?
There was something about it we couldn't pay
You
it
couldn't
off.
pay it off early.
should we go go back to page one, we'll just work our way down page by page. Ellen, did you have anything you want to say, or are you here to answer questions, or?
I guess just for an opening comment, I mean, whenever I review any budget, I try to take them on a quarterly basis because that will give me a snapshot of where we're at the town. Obviously, this is a reflection of the expenditures through September 30th, so we're through the third quarter. Divide the town in quarters, and if I look at the bottom line, where the operating budget has about 28% remaining, so we're about where we should be. However, you will see as we go through this, there are quite a few lines that are over. We're just hoping that the bottom line can support the rest of the expenditures that need to be made for the rest of the year.
Okay. All right.
Are those percentages calculated correctly, or no?
This one.
The
Did you
ones
do
that are
this?
calculated correctly, they are.
Yeah, I took the
all the other
bottom line,
ones?
Okay,
Not
Kind
so
of like,
much.
almost like the
Yeah.
department totals seem to be
Right.
correct.
yeah.
Yes.
If you
right,
take
those
the
ones are.
operating budget total and in the actual year-to-date expenditures, it does figure out right.
Well, that's actually
That helps.
pretty helpful. Those being correct is quite helpful.
I guess we'll work through page one if anybody has any questions for Ellen on page one.
I guess I just have a couple general questions just to start. Just looking at like the salary budgets. So I know along with salary, you got a lot of other expenses like people's health care, retirement, social security taxes, Medicaid taxes, stuff like that. Is that like, for example, line 3, the 105,000? Does that include all that, or is there some other line item?
No, if, when you go further into the budget under the personnel administration, it's all calculated in there.
Personnel admin.
So
Okay, I see health
99.
insurance.
Yep, so this is strictly just the gross salaries.
So, okay, then that would be, so Medicare, Social Security, I know the employer, doesn't the employer pay like a percentage of those? that
Yep,
would
so
be-
that's just for the employer portion. The employee's portion comes out of their paycheck.
So so like the portion that we pay, would that be, is that under personnel admin?
Yes, it should be. There should be a line for FICA and Medicare.
Yeah, like
FICA,
92
Medicare,
is
okay, yep, I see it.
FICA, yeah, 93 is Medicare.
Then
94,
it's-
95 is retirement.
Are they in there?
Perfect. And then,
So they're not in each department.
just another general question. So I know like, obviously, some line items are overspent, and then you got others that are underspent. I mean, when you're spending money through the year, what's the, I know you shift some expenses around, what ultimately is the limit? Like if you're, so I guess I just picked out a random example, line item 84 is just showing that it was budgeted 30,000, we spent 69,000, I'm just picking a random one that was overspent. What's the ultimate limit of how much you could spend? Like, is there a limit on what money you can shift to spend, or is there? what is the limit?
It's a bottom line budget, so that's the important part that we have to look at. If there is a specific department that is going over, I mean, that's what we're trying to track to make sure of. I mean, obviously with the legal budget, we obviously know that there were some unanticipated legal costs that are causing that line to increase. So ultimately, when we're setting the budget, we're really just throwing a guess at what we're going to be hit with for the year, and then, you know, doing forecasting based on past experience. So it's one of those unpredictable things. So we do have to keep in mind that that budget is about $40,000 over right now, and keep a close eye on that bottom line for the next couple of weeks and decide whether we have to put a moratorium in place and, you know, like limit the spending for, you know, supplies, anything that we might be able to carry over into the next year's budget.
And when you say bottom line, are we specifically talking about the line 382, 4.8 million? Is that your ultimate limit? So you
Yes.
can borrow from other sections or whatever that you're basically, and I guess that would lead into this question is like, even the 4.8 million, the bottom line, is that a hard limit for you
That
guys?
is the hard limit.
Because you do have money, extra money in the general fund.
That's what's been approved by the voters to
So
expend.
you can't legally take money from
No,
the
no,
general
if they're gonna go over that, they would have to have a special town meeting for
Okay.
the approval of the expenditures.
All right, yeah, just for my own info, I was curious, so thank you.
And there's like is it the general fund, or is there also like an unspent, like the town has a reserve,
There is an unreserved fund balance.
and that's separate from the general fund?
That is correct. So that's the excess monies from the operating budget. So obviously, if we don't spend the full $4.8 million, then money would be turned back into that unreserved fund balance.
Is that
and that's-
because there's like there's a percent that the state recommends we
There
do.
is a percentage, it's either based on your operating budget or your revenues. It depends on how we want to calculate it. I don't have that figure with me tonight. I apologize, but I can get that for you just to, we're waiting for the 2022 audit to be finalized still. So I'll have that figure and I can tell you what percentage of
Does
retainage
work-
that is.
Does that work the same way where you have to do a town vote or something to spend out of that, or is that? different?
Well, yeah, I mean, so sometimes you'll see warrant articles are funded by your unreserved fund balance. That's pretty much the only other time, other than if, when we're in the tax rate setting process, we use some of that to buy down the tax rate.
And then is there also a separate emergency fund?
No.
Okay.
So that
There
would
are
be,
capital reserves and expendable trust funds, but that the selectmen are agents to expend for, but there's no other emergency fund.
Where- So if I've heard people talking about an emergency fund, it was probably the unreserved funds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought I did
that's-
ask, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's why they keep that percentage.
I did ask that question last year, the exiting town administrator. He said it was between 8 and 12% of their overall budget, and we're about 2.4 million in there. I don't know what inflation's eat into it. I don't know what accounts it in, or if it's getting interest. I'm not sure yet.
It is,
hope
it's in
it's
an
getting-
interest-bearing account.
How much interest, though?
I think last time I checked with Betsy, we were just over 5%.
Okay.
So it's government, is it government debt it's invested in? Treasuries?
I'll have to verify that.
Is there, so like we had a special meeting for the school board to appropriate additional funds. I know that was an specific RSA that allowed that for
So we would
for
have.
those specific funds. Is there a process, if you guys hit your hard stop, is there a process for you guys to have some sort of meeting to
We
appropriate
would have to do the
additional
same
funds?
type of process that the school board did.
So both the school board and the town, in addition to the adequacy funds, if you hit a hard stop, there's still a legal process to appropriate additional funds? And which may have to be either raised through additional taxation or from the, I guess, the reserve fund?
Mm-hmm. That's
we're talking
correct.
about? Okay.
How can people call for one of these special town meetings?
It's a petition of 25 register, or it's a percentage of the registered voters in town. I think it actually figures out to be 50 in our town.
50%?
Individuals or?
No,
50 individuals.
Oh, 50 individuals,
50
sorry.
individuals.
It's not a huge number.
No.
Quick question, line 3, what payments to MRI, what's MRI?
Municipal Resources Incorporated, so that would be the interim town administrator that was here, filling in between Chris Sterndale and I, as well as we had an interim public works director that was here 2 days a week from the time of departure from Sean McLean, so that was in June, and he actually got done last week. He had to take, not another assignment, but that was the time that he could allocate for us. So it's a combination of those two.
Now, has his position been filled, or is?
Not
the highway
yet.
department not yet?
We have a candidate in the running, and I have another one in for interview tomorrow, so I'm hopeful that one of the two will be successful,
Hope so.
especially going into this time of year.
Yeah, right.
Winter.
How many public works employees are we at right now?
We have 4. We are full staff.
It's full staff.
And that does not include recycling center, right?
That does not.
That's just,
That's just for the highway department.
Is that a full, 4 people full-time year-round, so you have additional staff or part-time people that you hire for plowing? or-
Correct, yep,
or
so,
contractors?
most of the, the contractors, most of the winter plowing is done by subcontractors. We do have, I think, 1, maybe 2 part-time employees that help assist for the winter plowing. But it is 4 full-time year-round is the regular crew, plus the public works director or the highway director.
So when it says like contracted road maintenance projects, 1,000, we just haven't done any?
That would be if we needed to bring somebody in to assist with the project. It's a placeholder in case that comes up, if we need somebody to bring their equipment in and subcontract out the labor and the equipment to do something. Maybe that our,
What line item
Did
is
they
that, Tom?
spend, 281? And 100,000 of that was transferred out to a warrant article. So does that not show on here if that was spent?
the warrant article will be separate.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is
That's the other
just
reason
strictly
not to
the
move-
operating
That's the
budget.
other reason not to move some of this out to a warrant article, like, it makes it very confusing. Can I just request to the select board that they put that back in?
It's, well, I think what they did was the best that they could with the 4% tax cap,
Yeah.
and then still be able to provide the service and the staffing levels.
Well, they risked not having, like, if that had failed, we wouldn't have that money for road maintenance.
If the warrant article had failed?
Yeah.
Yeah, warrant
Right.
articles don't fail.
Well, I'm pretty sure that was also our recommendation to them is reflected
Okay.
in this.
Well, no,
Really?
our initial, when we met that year in the beginning, one of these early meetings, we had asked John, not this John Warren, we had asked him, like, are you gonna try to abide by the tax cap, or are you just gonna try to move everything out to warrant articles? And they said they weren't gonna do that, and then ultimately that's kind of what they did. And I think it would have been more responsible to put less important things out to be risked on a warrant article, and to keep core things that the town is responsible for in the budget.
So I wasn't looking at the line before I actually started to respond to you, Tom. So this $200,000, the balance of this is for the paving projects, which is in a separate warrant article. The reason why this has not been expended yet is because our paving actually started today. They're reclaiming Deerfield Road and they're starting the paving on Monday, so this will be expended.
Okay. I think it was odd to not spend it.
Unfortunately, we were unseasonably delayed.
Yeah.
Well, the rain.
Before we jump to all pages, is there anything else on page 1?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
'Cause I'm gonna get lost.
That's jumping around.
Everybody else
Good
can
job,
do this.
Mike.
I can't do
Bring
this.
us back,
Yeah.
page 1.
I have a question on line 5, merit compensation pool. It looks like none of that's been spent. Is that at the end of the year?
So, yes, this is just a compilation of all the salaries together. It falls in the town office budget. So technically, once all of the performance reviews have been done and the merit increases, what happens is they're just hitting the individual line items right now. And then I think at the end, we'll probably just do okay, this was the increase total, and then take it out of that line item. It'll just be a line item
End
transfer.
of the year kind of thing. Okay.
Right, so that'll stay at zero spent, and it'll be spent elsewhere, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I see that there's postage has increased again and is expected to increase again. Is any other stuff being done to reduce postage? I know when I went to pay my tax bill, they informed me that I could get paperless, and so I signed up for that. So I assume that they're doing that to everybody.
If people opt into it, that's a
Yeah.
great way for postage savings. Other than that, I mean, we do, through Pitney Bowes, through our postage meter, we do get a very small break on our postage. We don't pay what you would pay at the counter at the post office, so. but
It's something.
It is.
Everybody good on page 1?
I just, but I noticed that in most places throughout, the office supplies seem to be overspent, but, I mean, then, like, rec, it was like way under, so it's probably pretty even, but I didn't know if there was a reason that it's
I think,
What was way under?
the office supplies.
so what happens is most of the expense gets eaten up by the town office, and then Betsy tries to split it between the various departments. So like we order our water for our bubblers. That expense comes in on the town office, but then we allocate it to the departments. So recycling takes so many, recreation takes so many. So then when she goes through and does those journal adjustments, she'll expense them off. So a lot of this hasn't been quite captured by
Okay, so.
respective
yeah,
departments yet.
So it seems like it's probably spread out appropriately, it just was. good?
Page 2.
I can't imagine these election numbers are updated from last night.
No.
Okay. I was
Well,
wondering if we knew how much a special meeting costs.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know if this,
This says it's 9:30.
Yeah.
No, it's not
right,
correct. Last
what
week.
See this
what if this actually includes,
The last,
43?
the August one?
yeah,
Yes, and the August and the September are posted in here.
So we're not overspent in the election department.
Not as of yet.
Okay.
Well, what,
I saw some crowing online that, the budget committee had cut, so last year, there was, money that was budgeted in the election for, there was talk that potentially the 2024 presidential primary might be held in December of 2023, and that they wanted to budget 10,000 or something for that, and we struck that out, because I did not think that was reasonably going to happen. And then people had said that that money had been budgeted for a special election like the one we had to fill the state representative seat. But that was not the case. It was for if the primary for the president was moved into December. So I wanted to clear that up. I don't think anyone budgets for a state rep special election.
No.
It's rare enough.
right. I see line 43, election advertising.
So those would be, I'm not really sure what the additional $5,300 in expenditure would be, other than the fact that I do know the union leader is extremely expensive and we have to
Not cheap to run ads.
put it so every time the supervisors of the checklist meet, as well as, all these noticing for the special elections, the two that we've had. I would say, based on a standard size ad that we did recently, I want to say it was like $700 for the one publication.
I was gonna say the one I had to sign off for work the other day was $550, and that was a construction notice of a advertisement, so that wasn't even as detailed as some of the normal ones, so like,
those are required postings.
yeah,
I'm
those
gonna
are
say
those are
they're
required if you're
required.
getting around it.
And do
So
we know
union
how many
leaders-
people in Nottingham actually have a union leader subscription?
Until they change the RSA, unfortunately, we have to
That's
put
where I
it
was
in the
getting at.
publication.
I was thinking about
Either
talking
that
to
or
our
Foster's.
I was
That's what
thinking
you
about
got.
talking to our new state rep. Do we have to list in just that paper, or do we have to list in multiple papers?
You have to list in a publication of general circulation, so our options are there, Foster's, Seacoast, and they're all relatively around
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
But Union Leader, at least we know, captures a broader span.
Because I feel like at this point, the town's, it's not emergency alert. I got something from the town that said, hey, there's an election or whatever. I bet that reaches
It
more
does-
people.
It
than
probably
these-
does, but it doesn't suffice to fill the
Right.
Fill the
RSA.
RSA
Right.
That's why I want to talk to our state rep and see if we can get that changed. Because
That's a good
So
idea.
you're telling me that $5,300 is
Is
the
advertising.
advertising for that?
Advertising in
And did you guys have to do
newspapers.
that for the special meeting as well?
We have to do it for RFP, all of those things have RSA requirements of posting, and, whenever there's an additional special something that happens, there's RSA requirements to post them, because there are typical things you just post it locally and, online suffices, but, no, when it's by RSA, we have to post it in the paper. so
How much
we
do you
have
think
to-
that adds up to on like an average year?
I have no idea, I mean, this
It
is
depends on
clearly
how
a
many
lot,
you
but yeah,
have.
it
I
depends
mean,
on.
we have two public hearings next Wednesday for planning board fees updates, and then just to accept grant money that we got for the body worn cameras. So that's two separate public notices that we weren't anticipating, but I mean, that's probably gonna be over $1,000 in
How the newspapers are
advertisement.
still in business?
Sounds like it.
Thank you for indulging my curiosity.
Here's your other postage, Tom, line 56.
Jonathan's doing good. What is financial admin doing? That they would be using postage?
Financial administration, and sending out all the bill payments.
Oh, so this is the one that would go down from all the paperless billing.
No, that would be your tax collect,
Tax collector, okay.
but actually the tax collector is in there as well. It's in this financial administration.
So it's rolled into that postage
Yes,
number?
yep.
Great. Although as part of that, like, we haven't got our final tax bill of the year or something.
Bingo.
Yeah, gotcha. Can we use the town's notification thing to send out a thing to encourage people to sign up for paperless billing?
It's on the website.
That would be a good idea,
It's on the website.
because very few people are aware of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I
you-
wasn't until
You
you
only gotta
said
get
it.
them signed up once, and then it's that way, we save
Yeah.
$2 every year or something, at least probably. It's
And
not
most
just
people would
postage.
do it.
Yeah, because it's printing costs too, right? It's printing costs, it's buying the envelope. Does-
Envelopes,
Does somebody have to
stamps.
put them in the envelope, I'm assuming?
Yes,
That person will,
it's a group effort.
they'll support this.
That's a good investment on return, though. You know what I mean? You're getting the tax dollars coming in. That's really good.
Very good on page 2, page 3.
The local political groups, the Republicans and the Democrats could send out a notice. But that would be a mailing list that would reach a lot of people.
Yeah, we're all paperless.
Right, but no, send out a paperless notice that you can sign up to pay your taxes that way, would reach people and they would actually read it more than they would a paper thing that came through the mail.
Yeah.
True.
Tell
I
all
think
your
if the
friends.
town's paying for a notification system, they should use it for stuff.
A question on 84, what was the reason for the excessive attorney fees?
That has to do with the investigation into the fire department, and also accruing additionally for the appeal, the chief's appeal to the termination. So additionally, there were some additional land use, road-related legal cases that were also compiled into that. There was, I think before I came on board at the end of March, I think we were already about halfway into that budget.
Okay. Wow. Where did the town find the attorney for,
Where did the town find the
Yeah.
attorney? It's Upton and Hatfield. It's been the same, firm for several years.
kind of like we're contracted with them, it's kind of
We are. The Board of Selectmen is actually considering putting out a request for proposals just because it's been several years. So the only thing that has changed, it's still the same firm representing the town, it's just a different attorney within the firm. Susan Lowry, I think, has been representing the town now for two or 3 years. It was right around there was a transition between the attorneys around the time that we accepted the camp roads, the emergency lanes.
Now, if they give us bad legal advice, or if the temporary town administrator that MRI gives us bad advice and gets us into a lawsuit where we get a judgment against us, is there any way to hold them liable? Or does it come right out of the taxpayers' money?
It comes out of the taxpayers' money.
Does it come out of any particular line in here, or is it just like,
No.
we gotta dig into the
It
emergency
comes out of the
funds?
legal line.
That's just like a financial planner. You make money, they make money. When you lose money, they make money. You know what I
The
mean?
only ones that win are the legal,
Absolutely.
Layers, that's it.
yes.
The health insurance, line 88, it says here usually the end of October, but
It is, so we did get preliminary notification that the health insurance and the dental rates or the health insurance rate is going up, I think it's 15.6%.
whoa.
And I will caution you, I mean, it seems like a lot, but with Health Trust being in that type of a pool, I mean, it does ebb and tide. If you look at it for like a 5-year cycle, you'll have years where it goes down 7.6%, it goes up 15 the next, and then it goes down, so.
last year we got a huge windfall
We-
because it barely moved. right?
Absolutely.
We're all shocked because everybody else's health insurance went up, but it
Yes.
seems like they're catching up.
Does the town offer a high deductible, like
We do.
HSA account? Okay.
We do.
That seems really
I mean, that's-
expensive.
School.
We get our bottom line is 4.8 million, our health insurance costs are like almost 10% of our budget. Seems like a
The
lot.
health savings account's a good deal if you're young and healthy, you know what I mean? I have it for years.
Yeah.
It's working out for me. You know what I mean? It's tax deferred going in, tax deferred going out. It's the best of both worlds.
Does the town do a buyout for people?
We do not.
Okay.
Something for consideration. We will be looking at it. We're going to be doing some significant policy review. So what the first one that has been in the queue is the town's employee manual personnel policy. So we'll be looking at the benefits end of it as well.
But I do like what you recommended, looking for, getting some more, you know, for our lawyers or something like that, because I shop car insurance every 4 years. You know what I mean? It's, I save $700 a year with better insurance. It's just, you know, it's a game. You just gotta play it.
Well, most of the contracted services like that, even your auditing, I mean, you should at least put them out for bid just to keep the, you know, it's
Right.
easy to just continue to renew contracts, but it keeps them honest.
Right. Because they just keep up a little bit every year if you keep rolling it, and, you know, I get it.
So are you guys putting a bid out on the health insurance this year?
And not in the health insurance, so we're in Health Trust, so there's a variety of different plans that we can choose based on the deductibles and what type of plan, whether they're a site of service or PPO. So we will stay with that because it makes, you don't want to shift around too much, because once people are already established with their healthcare provider, you don't want to play around with that too much. So Health Trust is very good about giving us the options. We do have, like you had asked, we have the option for, you know, $1,000 deductible, and then we have the higher deductible, which is $3,000, just to keep the rates somewhat competitive.
When's the last time we put out a bid for that?
For the health insurance, not to my knowledge. I mean, most towns that are
Just
with,
to light a fire under them and scare them a little bit.
it doesn't work that way, because what we do is we go into a pool with all the other municipalities. It's all through public risk pool. So
Schools.
you
That's how the
actually,
school's
you
done
end,
too.
you
So
end
it's
up, you
Health
end up
Trust,
working out better
so you're not
that way.
negotiating a small
You're-
amount of
right.
insurance, you're in a pool of, but you do see those fluctuations. Last year, the school was 0.2, the increase, we heard last night it'll be 13%, so it's the same, it really fluctuates, unfortunately for budgeting. I
so
wish you
it's-
could just,
Pooled with all the towns?
anyone
Okay.
who.
The whole state?
Yep. Well,
So
all the
anyone
towns that
who
are part
joins
of
Health Trust.
the health trust, exactly.
For the retirement line items, I see you have 3 separate ones.
Mm-hmm.
What's the 457 one?
The 457, okay, so the police department and the
96.
fire department are Group 2 New Hampshire retirement sponsored. Group 1 employees, which is all the other full-time municipal employees, were not enrolled with New Hampshire retirement for that. So we offer a 457B, which is a government-sponsored, very similar to like a simple 401K. So all the other employees, there's a 6% employer matching contribution.
So why so for the line item 96 that we're talking about, 457 retirement, you got 30,000, which is much smaller than the line items for 94 and 96, those retirements.
It's
What's the difference there? Why is it?
Quite a bit of
such a
difference.
spectrum?
You're talking 26 to 32% for the police and fire,
Okay.
whereas the town's only matching 6% of the other employees.
So would it be true
So
true
if
to
we-
say that the 457 retirement is more of a traditional, a stock match,
Correct.
vice, like a full retirement system, like, so I guess is there any plan, are these retirement plans like legally required? I know like a lot of employers now, they're sort of getting away from the
Once you're in,
full retirement system and then rolling towards more of the
once you're in
401K
New Hampshire
system.
retirement, you don't get out. And on the flip side, you know, we've talked about it at the Board of Selectmen level as far as, you know, do we want to offer the New Hampshire retirement, which it would require a town meeting vote. It would have to go on as a warrant article. But that's one of the challenges that we've found in trying to recruit and retain employees. You have them coming from other municipalities that are experienced, let's say for the highway or, you know, public works in general, and they're coming from a town that is enrolled in New Hampshire retirement, and they have a certain amount of years vested into that. They're not willing to make the change to somebody that's not in that system.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, do you think it's a really high percentage of current police and fire that are enrolled in those types of retirement systems now?
It's mandatory.
So it's mandatory.
It is mandatory.
So when you say we can roll out of it, though,
No, you cannot. So the rest of the employees, other than police and fire, the town has not adopted the Group 1 employees for New Hampshire retirement. So it's an elective thing for the town to do, but once you're in, you don't get out.
okay.
It's next to near impossible to get out.
Right, but like everybody, he's in the thrift system, it's just on the federal level. You know what I mean? Once you get in, you're in, but the new recruits coming in, they don't get as good as a deal. I mean, right now, he's 50 and he just retired. You know what I mean? So that's a good deal.
So the other part of that too is the 457B, right now, the town will match up to a 6% contribution, but the employee has to put in that much. So it's elective on the employee. If they choose not to put into it, they don't. They just don't get anything from the town. Whereas if we enroll in New Hampshire retirement, it's mandatory contribution from both the employee and the employer level.
Have we evaluated that on a financial basis?
I'm in the process of doing it.
Because, I mean, just to speak to the significance of what this means, I mean, Nottingham is, when I actually interviewed for the DPW director position 4 or 5 years ago here in town, and I was offered the position, but unfortunately, that was actually the deciding factor for me. I was in the state system in another municipality, and coming here, I wouldn't be able to roll that over and continue my investing in that one, and so I actually didn't take the job for that reason. So I do know from experience that that is a fairly significant hindrance to hiring, and I would be curious to see how many towns aren't in it, because I was very surprised to hear Nottingham wasn't.
It's a smaller list
Yeah,
than,
I think it's a lot smaller than I had first realized. Well, I guess I should say I was surprised Nottingham was in it, because I didn't even realize there really was anybody who wasn't in it. I thought everybody had gotten into it at some point.
But I presume it would be quite an increase in cost.
so 6% match now, the employer contribution is like 13.5%. So it's about a 7% of gross salary for full-time employees that aren't
So
police and
now,
fire.
now it would be 6%, up to 6% match
Yep.
if we rolled into the.
If we rolled in, it's gonna
And
be,
It'd be 13 from the town.
correct.
And then additional
then-
from the
Then the
employee as well?
employer would have to, the employee would have to contribute as well.
Thir-
It's 7?
Yes,
Seven,
you're right.
20%.
It'd be 13% automatically as opposed to the up to 6.
Correct.
That people are.
Definitely more
potentially,
expensive.
You know, maybe they're all in, maybe half or whatever, you know.
I mean, are we able to offer something where we just match at a higher percent? Because obviously it's more expensive
We
to
can
do
increase the
13%.
percentage of contribution, correct.
If we need.
But that's only gonna help us so much as far as the recruitment from experienced people trying to move from other towns.
Yeah, it doesn't help the people who are already in the system
Right.
who wants to transfer into Nottingham.
Yeah, I understand, but I believe you'd be vested in, like, if you left your job into to another job that didn't have that, you're vested in your current
It depends
retirement
on
and
how much,
still.
how many years you have.
10 years, okay,
Yeah,
10 years to vet.
I have 10 years from another town that I worked for in the New Hampshire retirement system, and I've made the choice to go without it. So that's sitting there. I'm not at the point of being vested. If we do become New Hampshire retirement eligible, or if down the road, if I move to an employer, I'll pick up where I left off. But that's the gamble that I took.
I guess my question would be, like, for that retirement system, once an employee retires, are we still paying into that system on their behalf?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
you're only paying for the active employer.
It's not a pension type system?
Well, it is a
It
pension.
is.
It is a pension, but it's coming out of invested money that's been already previously invested?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do a big evaluation every other year to determine who's eligible, what levels of eligibility, how much you need to contribute. They just switched a few years ago from the percentage that employers and employees contribute. It used to be 11 and 9, now it's 13 and 7. And then they also will do based on the projections and how they think it's gonna be when those people are coming in now to retire, how much you get per year. Is it, 2% per year of service? Is it 1.5% per year of service? Is it, are you vested after 10? Are you vested after 5? There's a bunch of different things they reevaluate every year to try to ensure that it stays solvent, because they're legally obligated to keep it solvent. So that's kind of how they play it.
That's definitely hard to do when the Federal Reserve kept interest rates at 0 for a decade and Europe went to negative. A lot of the pension funds are wiped out, unfortunately.
Yep.
That's why your taxes keep going up.
Good on 3? Page 4?
Five's kinda quick.
I had a question on line 113. So can you share with me what that is and why there was a $1 but a 9,000
So
spent?
this is, there's $1 there because it's
Placeholder.
there as a placeholder. So at any time the planning board comes across a case where they need engineering or legal opinion, we have to have a line item there to be able to expend it, but the applicant is responsible for that cost because it's for their project.
Okay, so that gets.
So you'll see this, on the flip side,
In
like on
revenue.
this one specifically, even though we've expended $9,027 on the planning board revenue side, you'll see the money
Offset,
coming
okay.
back in as reimbursement.
So, okay. Revenues.
I had a question about line 120, zoning advertising. That come back to the paper?
Yes.
All right.
And again, it's borne on the applicant there to pay the newspaper publication fees and the abutters notice. Well, the abutters notice is different, but
Did a little back of the napkin math here. Union Leader has 44,000 subscription numbers in 2016, so I'm guessing it's lower now. If you look at the percentage of the New Hampshire population Nottingham is, that would mean there's about 165 subscribers in town. I'm guessing we have more than 165 people on our email list.
I'm sure that's the case.
I would like to say thank you so much. I love that the section with all the building names is easy to read and not ambiguous.
Yes.
now. I don't know who finally did that,
Thank
but
you.
this is great.
All right. I won't take credit. I'm pretty sure it's either a Betsy or a Chris thing.
It only took 3 years of bitching.
Oh, nice, the narrative's even got a bigger detail, just in case you're curious.
Right?
Oh, the actual address.
Next to TOCC, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. I like it. Do we have to pay extra for cat-sized rats, or does this come standard?
We had to change our pest provider. Thank you for watching.
Yes. I heard about it, and so I had to go back and watch afterwards, because I was like, there's no way that's what they actually said. Apparently, the rodent issue over in the
Police
station
department.
was small cat-sized.
Cat-sized rat.
Really?
Size rat.
Cat-sized rat.
That's like New York.
Yeah, that's a New York sewer rat that you're gonna, it's popping out of a manhole covered with a cigar in his mouth.
Everybody wants to move to Nottingham.
After an odor for 2 weeks, we knew it was something larger. I was thinking a squirrel, but it was a very healthy rat that we just recently saw that fell victim to our tactic of getting rid of them.
Ellen, can I ask on 131, what the Grange building maintenance expenditure, 675 was?
I am going to have to find out what that expenditure is because I'm not sure that we've done anything over there. So I think it might be in the wrong line item,
Oh, okay.
but I can look into that and let you know,
Thank you.
Charlotte.
Just curious.
And then I have a question about 138, that there's a negative actual. I know the school does share a portion of the electric costs, and I'm wondering if we've overpaid that? I'm just, to be in a negative actual.
So it says that it's a plug. It's going to be updated using the July to December actuals.
Or why would
A
it
plug
be
is
a,
placeholder? Is
but
that-
a negative number placeholder is
It
an.
says in the US. Yeah, I'm not really
It's
sure.
an odd
I mean, the only
wonder.
thing that yeah,
Okay, okay.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, but it was just, it's an odd to see that.
Maybe it's negative just to stand out.
So we had a lot of crowing last year about cutting the lines for electric and heat for all the buildings. They had the previous MRI town administrator recommended doubling and tripling these numbers. And we reduced the increases back to a reasonable, like 100% increase. And it looks like everybody's done great except for new fire station. I noticed the heat is 20% over and the electric is like 5 times,
Yeah.
maybe 3 times over. What's the deal with the fire building?
I don't honestly know.
Well, it is being manned full-time now, so
Yeah.
it's probably a contributor.
That's what I was gonna, thinking of, you know.
20,
if it's
hours.
The first year it's
Did
really
they put heaters in
full-time.
the
Yep.
Are
bedrooms?
they like charging electric cars over there?
Yeah.
I mean,
We might have to look into some like occupancy sensor switching or something.
this is more than lights though.
Yeah, Brent, do you know, did they put heat in those?
We did have.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I should ask you, right?
Yeah, there's, yeah, the heat, yep, there's heat.
Maybe that's.
That would definitely make a difference.
Doesn't make sense if they had
I don't know if it was a result of, you know, before we had to replace the furnace or the hot water, or the water softeners, or everything else that just kind of failed up there over the winter. I can look into that as well.
Don't they have solar panels on that?
electric's really high.
Are there?
Station?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
They do.
So we don't, we're not getting the power, are we? Is it one of these scam things like they have here where we're locked
Well,
into buying electrics from
It
somebody?
feeds into the grid, so I think it would reduce your, electric bill
Reduce
for whatever.
That might
generates.
still be reduced, Jesus.
Yeah, electric bill keeps going up every month, it seems like, you
Right.
know, at least
But
every
like the
year.
panels they got here, they said, well, it's not gonna cost us anything, and yeah, we didn't pay for the panels, but we signed a contract where we have to purchase all of our electricity from the people that own the panels, and we pay a higher rate than if we just bought it from like Eversource.
Oh,
But
really?
in, you know, 10 more years or something, we'll be able to purchase these old used panels for above
No, it's
market
next
rate.
year. It's
Next
in
year?
2024.
Wow, right, it's already here.
How old are the panels? 10 years old? I remember a couple
They're old
years-
enough that new ones are probably a lot more efficient and cheaper.
Right, because they break
But you have to
down.
buy them, that's the only way of doing it, you have to purchase them yourself.
And they do break down over time, too.
We should call the company's bluff. You think they'll actually take
Yeah,
them
but
off the
that's-
roof?
that's
Because
how
it'll cost them money
companies
to
do it.
take
They
them
get
off the roofs.
We let the town get the incentives.
Ellen, line 125, salary maintenance, it's just a zero sum. We have nobody,
Spend money, save money, right?
We do not have a part-time maintenance person.
has any maintenance
Uh,
happened in this building, or?
No, we have the $40,000 that was allocated by warrant article to contract with a property maintenance company. Pretty much what we've been doing is waiting for the facilities committee to come forward with their report, which they just presented to the board on September 18th. We do have a contracted company that's now doing our cleaning service, and they also facilitate other building needs, whether it's painting, pressure washing, plumbing, all that. They have contractors, so we're gonna be utilizing that. The board is going to be reviewing that committee report on the 30th of this month, prioritizing the projects and see if we can get some things scheduled before the end of the year. So this $10,000 maintenance is going to be our general, you know, if we have a laborer out here doing snow shoveling, snow blowing, that type of stuff. We weren't able to find somebody when we advertised for it last year, and we'll see how it goes this year.
I'm trying to remember some of the other projects that were here, something about some oil tanks or diesel
Yep,
tanks.
the underground heating oil tank out front,
That taken care of?
it's not taken care of. So as of right now, we know that it's been deemed safe. It is something that we're probably going to be taking care of with time, but just not immediately.
No, wasn't there something in the kitchen that needed done, a pipe? or
Yep, so the under drain, there was blockage between the police department and where it actually goes out through the gym, so that was a very invasive project. Fortunately, we were able to just keep it contained to the gym side. Clarence was able to get everything unblocked from here and see that the piping and everything was clear enough, but once we got out into the gym, you'll see we actually had to cut into the floor tile. They had to run new piping.
Is there any plan to replace that
The floor-
flooring? Yeah.
Well, I got a price to at least replace the tiles where the concrete's exposed, but for $2,000, we already have so many tiles in that gym that are broken and of disrepair, so, you know, do we spend $2,000 to do a temporary fix, or do we put forward a warrant article to replace the floor and see if that's what the people would like us to do? So that's the route that we're probably going to take for this upcoming budget
That makes a
cycle.
lot more sense to do it correctly than piecemeal it together. for
We've done a
something
lot
that
of
needs
Band-Aid
to be
approach, so we're trying to stay away from that.
Regional planning on 170. We don't pay regional planning anything.
We do, Stratford Regional Planning.
I was about to say, because I'm working with him right now, so I was gonna say that was very, very nice of him to be.
Is that because it was a
Helpful.
warrant article thing? Or it was changed at town meeting or something? I remember.
Is that what it was?
I think that might be under,
That's a different line.
because I remember seeing, yeah, I think it might be under the planning board perhaps.
Oh, okay. I just missed it when I was looking through.
Wasn't that something that was like not in the
114.
budget but was discussed at town meeting?
PV miscellaneous.
Added back in?
That was discussed.
Yeah, SRPC dues.
Oh, yep, there it is. There's my notes. I just missed it.
Yeah, I remember there was something about breaking it out or whatever.
We could, I mean, that's,
No, and I think that's maybe why that line was there,
There was discussion.
and put it back together.
Deliberative
Yeah,
about-
yeah. I don't remember exactly what happened. Have to review minutes.
I wasn't that interested. I was just really gonna be excited if he was doing this work for us
If
for
he was
free.
doing
I
it
thought
for
that was
free.
really nice.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Blair's nice, I don't think he's,
I don't think he's that nice. Yeah, no, he's got a hard to fill.
I didn't realize they didn't put back in. That's good.
Line 168, there's no budget, but there's a $36,000 actual. Do you know what that is?
so that is, revenue.
Or would that be
Negative,
here?
right?
It should not be in the expenditure report.
Okay, I thought it looked like a revenue number.
We had 2 significant claims on fire engine number 2, so we'll have to get that moved. That's not an accurate depiction in there.
Line 168 you're talking about.
168 has no, yeah,
So that would be appropriate where that was a negative.
right. But that, yeah, revenues shouldn't be on this.
So it looks
Oh,
like,
was that for the bumper?
You know what, this might, and I'm thinking about this now, so we had to, I don't think.
Is this what you
I think
spent?
it's outstanding, I don't know what the REV, I don't know if that's
It's usually
revenue, but I
offsetting.
almost wonder if that's where we've made the expenses and then the insurance claim money
Probably.
came
So you
back as a
That would maybe
revenue.
make sense.
created a line to
'Cause,
put that in, because
yeah,
that was,
OS
yeah,
is usually offsetting revenue.
yeah, okay. So there would be, okay, so that was the actual cost, and then the revenues would be
Correct.
offsetting, okay.
So the, you said fire engine 2, was that the bumper damage?
There was bumper damage and then there was also the box damage from, there was an accident where it didn't navigate around the bollard.
Oh.
Well-
What was the bumper damage, what did that end up costing?
I don't have the breakdown.
Was that the, was
One of
that
them, one of
more
them was,
significant?
one of them was 18,000 and the other one I think was around 8,000 off the top of my head.
expensive bumper.
Those are expensive
Fire
trucks.
engines are not cheap.
They're not.
Jesus, the one they're looking at in Manchester right now is almost $2 million for the ladder.
Was it, so it was literally just the bumper, was it just, the, having to, my understanding was it just, it was like slightly bent
Yeah.
down, and had to just be bent up, or was it something more
I
expensive?
think there was more than
Wrenched.
that. I can pull together the actual claim information for you and get it to you if you're interested.
Sure.
For PD and the fire department, it looks like they're doing okay on gasoline numbers, fuel numbers. That was another one where the previous temporary town administrator advised us to like double or triple the numbers. And, we cut those down to a reasonable increase and it looks like it's working out. Actually oddly low for the
Well, it's-
fire department.
For the fire department?
Well, yeah, they're only halfway through their money. Are they just not driving as much? Are we not having a lot of fires, which would be
Well,
great?
I mean,
Been a wet summer.
Lot of rain.
I think everybody was,
That's
I think
true.
what everybody was trying to prepare for what we didn't know was going to happen with the price of gas. I mean, we were paying closer to $5 a gallon
This
at one
says
point.
There is a WAG, which at least in my industry is wild ass gas, of 1,700 gallons at $6 a gallon, which diesel's close to that, but not really. It hasn't beaten us that hard.
Looks like the police department's a little more than 3/4 of the way through their budget. They spent almost, or all their overtime. Just about.
Are they fully staffed now?
They are. With that being, well, they lost a full-time officer and they have, somebody that is part-time going to police academy. They'll be going to the full-time academy after, I think she's scheduled for the first of the year.
What's full staff for the police department? How many?
Nine? Seven?
7,
7 full-timers, I think.
including the chief?
I'm trying to add them in my head, bear with me. It's between 7 and 9.
I wonder if this number, just looking at the, more of the detail too, like equipment, that's over a bit, but that might be fully expended already, so that might be pushing, I'm trying to look at big numbers that are over. So like 190, maybe that's pushing that 15 a little fast.
Overtime's pretty much there.
Overtime carried a lot.
Yeah.
Overtime's definitely passed.
And then the cruiser itself, it looks like it's a little more than what was budgeted.
Oh,
trying to
that
think
reminds
if that
me,
would
the
swing it.
cruiser,
Yeah.
so this is, the line item here is they purchase a new cruiser every year, right? There was some discussion I had heard that the highway department, the previous highway department director, had wanted this truck, and there was a warrant article or something to get this truck, and they purchased this truck, and I am told that nobody in the highway department wants it or needs it, and no one's doing anything with it, and I suggested maybe the police could use it, because I know the police upgraded from Crown Vics to the SUVs because they want to have more storage space in the back. And I wonder if the pickup truck might be able to augment them so they could put, I don't know, an ATV or whatever they need to transport
It
in
will
there.
not. It's a utility body. It was purchased through the additional highway funds. So it has a utility body on it. It is being used by the highway department where it has a plow. We're trying to figure out if we can put a sander in it to make it useful to help plow like the parking lots, the intersections.
But it's currently not really.
It is being
It's
utilized.
being
Used
used.
for
I
something.
see it on the
Yes.
back roads and stuff, and,
Yeah.
well, try not to put sander, destroy that truck, it's a nice truck.
Because the other idea that came up was using it for the animal control.
They
The
do
truck?
have,
They don't have a vehicle.
truck.
Yeah,
If
no.
you need it, no.
they have those.
No, as in it wouldn't work, or?
I think maybe the animal control, I don't think for that utility truck, I mean, that's a $70,000-$80,000 truck.
Yeah, that's a lot for the
That's-
animal.
Yeah.
It's our animal control budget.
They,
Well, it was proposed to me as this truck is not being used for anything,
I
so.
don't think.
No, it's,
No, I see it all the time, it's an F-350,
it's nice.
it's nice.
they do have those, the sanders that like go into hitches or something, so it doesn't like, it's not as obstructive
Right.
and it'll.
Yeah, we can't put a
the util-
full-size sander in it just because of
Right.
the way the box
utility
is.
body, yeah, so. And those are adequate for like doing parking lots and stuff. But not for roads.
Yeah, it's like a parking lot at a time, yeah.
Yeah.
Line 203, fire stipend, what would that,
That's the volunteers, I think, and then
Yes.
Yes,
they add
they
up
get
all the
paid.
hours and distribute out what, right?
Correct.
But you
Yeah,
went
it's
to
a
full-time though, right? That's why it's like 0, right?
No, that's only given out.
It's the points
They
compensation,
give
so
it out,
they
they
get
give it
so
out
many.
once a
Oh,
year.
okay.
Correct, yeah, so that'll be.
The bonus,
End of the
if
year?
it
Okay.
comes at once a year, depending on how many times they've
How many
responded
meetings
and
they
how much
attend, how
trainings
much
they've
response.
participated in, et cetera.
The full-time overtime salary on line 200.
Okay, so
Is that-
I will definitely get into that one. What we have is we have a personnel policy that states that we pay overtime over 45 hours. We are running two 24-hour shifts, so for the full-time firefighters, they're working 48-hour shifts each week, so because we pay overtime after 45, it's 3 hours of overtime. So that's a personnel policy
Why did
change
we
that
not-
needs to be made.
Okay, I was gonna say we should probably change that before.
Yes.
yeah.
So this was all kind of in the works by the interim. The prior chief had some input as well. And it's one of those things that it's going to be addressed in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll get it cleaned up for the next budget
Even
cycle.
still, that's only 3 hours out of 48 hours. How is it, this is 48,000 out of 220,000.
It's 3 hours per employee every week. So 18 hours of overtime
But
every
they're
week.
being paid 45 hours.
No, 48.
48. No, 45 hours and then an extra 3 of
Yeah.
overtime.
Correct.
Right, so the 3 overtime is counted as like 6, right?
Time and a half.
Time and a half.
So like 5.
Yeah, 4.5.
Right, so you're looking at like 45 and 6 or 5.
So 27
Versus-
hours every week.
This is 220 and 48,
We get it.
right? The ratio is different. So there must be other.
And then there's
overtime.
also overtime for shift coverage. Obviously, if somebody's out and somebody's already worked 48, then they're getting overtime
We're
additionally.
fully staffed, aren't we?
We're not right now. Kyle Kustra left the department and we're still waiting to fill that position.
But we've
So we're
mostly been fully staffed?
subbing, yes, yeah.
So how's there so much overtime?
Why is there so much overtime?
Like, that's the point of being fully staffed and like having everybody full time.
Fully staffed to the point, we have 6 full-time employees
Yeah.
that there's 2 of them on per day, and there's 7 days in a
We
week.
get
Time
overtime,
and a half
yeah.
for 3 hours every week.
Every week.
But it seems like that would have been, maybe we just made a mistake on that 15,000. Like, it seems like we should have known they're gonna get 3 hours a day,
Yeah, but
times
they're
this,
gonna
times
try
this,
to-
so we should have.
Well, I think
we should have
the
had
plan was Sunday was gonna be filled by the current members, not the full-time members. That was what, that was,
What do you mean current members?
like myself.
Like merit.
Like, they were gonna have them come in as a on a per diem shift.
Gotcha.
That was the plan.
That was not considered probably when the numbers were
Yeah.
written up.
So just to clarify though, you were saying the personnel policy is changing so that
Correct.
the overtime will start after 48 hours?
That is correct.
That'll reduce
That will
some of those
eliminate the
overtime
overtime
hours?
pay, correct.
Is that gonna be in effect before the budget year?
I'm hoping so.
Okay.
So 204 chief's salary. I couldn't believe this when I read it last year. I couldn't believe that the chief's salary was that low. And I said, keep this guy happy because he's working for peanuts. And we all know where that's gone. So is this 8,500 here, is this what's being paid for his replacement?
Well, that's his year-to-date, that's how
That's
much he's got
year-to-date.
so far.
Yeah, we got,
There is-
we
there's-
got a discount because we didn't employ him for the full.
But the personnel's changed.
But is there currently someone in the position of chief?
There is
Yes.
Matt Curry,
And have they, is
and
this
he's
their salary?
assumed the salary, correct?
Okay.
Okay, so he's getting paid the
Correct.
salary devices, like the part-time
Correct.
funding, okay. What's,
And this is in addition to this is like a stipend?
So it is, yes, it is considered a stipend, it's a monthly stipend.
And they had the building inspector being the chief for a while too, right?
Yeah.
Was he being, this is the line he was getting paid out
Nope,
of?
the building inspector was being paid his regular rate of pay while in the interim position.
So who was being the building inspector?
We had another person subbing in as a building inspector.
What were they getting paid out of?
The
Where you
same-
been?
The same rate.
That's old news.
So if I go to the building
He was a nice
inspector
guy.
line, is there
I like
like
that
a
guy.
lot more money?
They're,
I'm trying to figure out where all this extra money is.
But, nice
Building
guy.
inspector
so
salary, that's too low.
when we had an interim in that was filled by our building inspector, his wages are figured into that part-time salary line, the 201.
Fire
I'm
department,
almost
230.
positive, because he is a part-time employee, so I'm thinking that his time that he spent while at the fire department comes out of that part-time salary. And then the time that he's been spending, as well as the replacement building inspector while he was acting in a different role, is the building inspector salary.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
That's
line,
what
yeah,
they
line
were-
201, you can see on the notes there, that was your seventh day right there, Sunday. That's what that's supposed to go through.
But I'm pretty sure when the building inspector was interim, we were charging it to the fire department, but it would have been under the part-time salary line, not,
Do you know how
not
much
as
that-
the chief.
Do you know how much that ended up being?
I don't have a total, no, but I can tell you it was $35 an hour.
With the, with the shakeup in the fire department, what are you expecting to happen to line 204 for next year? What's gonna happen to that amount?
I have to meet with the chief and find out what his proposed budget is.
Do you anticipate it to be a similar type of stipend for the chief's salary?
Depends on what's proposed. I mean, as of right now, because of the organizational structure of the fire department, it is still considered a part-time, or, yeah, a part-time position. There's no movement there's no ability to move it to full-time for next year without an organizational structure change.
Who would, I mean,
The
who-
Board of Selectmen.
by the Board of Selectmen, what are you anticipating is gonna happen? I guess that's really ultimately my question, I guess, is it gonna stay as a part-time role with this small type of stipend? or
I
you
believe so,
expect-
because even if the Board of Selectmen do push a change, it's a year before it goes into effect.
Okay,
So-
so at least for next year, that's probably
Correct.
gonna be the case.
Good to see we haven't had any expensive forest fires.
A lot of rain.
All right.
So the emergency management stuff, that's going to Chief Woodman.
Correct.
Numbers are all gonna stay the same.
I have not seen her proposed budget for next year. The only thing that might change in this, I think she might be adding in some equipment, and then there's also a question as to whether or not we're going to have to update the local emergency operation plan. That was last updated in 16. It's usually done every 5 years, and there'll be grant funding that's available for that update, but there may be a small amount that we need to include into that. We're doing the hazard mitigation plan this year.
So I got a question. We got this whole section here. We got a dozen or so lines. Most of them don't have anything in them. The total amount's only $2,000. Can we just roll emergency management into police department?
No.
No, it's
No,
like legally
it's a
required to be
separate
its own
function,
thing.
and it's only going to be, so these dollars and the single dollar per line item, they're there as a placeholder if there is ever a emergency declared where the emergency management has to get activated, then obviously we'll have expenditures.
This is something that every town has
Yes.
as a standard. Okay.
I presume that would be something where we'd probably be getting money from the state of New Hampshire, if that was to occur? If like there was
If
an
we-
actual emergency?
It depends, yeah.
Depends, okay.
What is the emergency center in town? Residents? Is it the fire, here at the town offices? And there is a generator here.
Yes, there is.
That's why it's here.
I understand that it floods though.
This place floods? Oh, so you might have to move?
So does the school, so.
Yeah, there was a flood when I was a kid here where I swam on the ball fields and then couldn't get to the school because the school was an island. The 3 major roads that lead to it were all flooded out. That was a good one. That was Mother's Day flood.
That was the
That was a
Mother's
really
Day.
good one. But I actually got to swim across the ball field and back. I thought that was great.
Literally. How deep was it?
Swam.
How deep was
3
it?
feet.
Wow.
It was like.
Should've brought your
three-
jet ski-
three-
you
three
should've
and a
brought your
half-
jet
I could've
ski
brought
down.
anything. Yeah, but the problem is we had to walk from other places because it was flooded out there too.
Line 261, highway mowing.
That's in progress.
Okay, is that
The highway so the mowing, the roadside mowing, we subcontract out. That just started on Freeman Hall, back toward the middle part of August, and unfortunately, our contractor is a little bit short-handed, so he's behind. The vegetative control is our Japanese knotweed program that we have in place. We're at the end of the 5-year contract, and they're doing the treatment, I think today, they did it yesterday and today. So we'll have some expenditures towards that, but
that number will go up then?
well, it won't go up, but you'll see some expenses
Yeah,
toward it.
expenses.
Has there been any complaints about vegetation and stuff not being mowed and visibility issues?
I haven't heard any complaints. Obviously, we have a lot of overgrowth. There was a lot of rain, so it just seems like the trees, the branches and everything are hanging that much lower.
Yeah.
The highway department's been really focusing on trying to get some of that taken care of before we end up with snow load weighing that down, so.
But there hasn't been any big issues or anything reported?
Not that
Alright,
I've
because we
heard.
cut that and there was a lot of crowing about that, and it looks like it's worked out.
It is my understanding that it's been a couple of years since they've had an opportunity to really address it, so they're trying to do as much as possible. I mean, the biggest thing that they focused on towards the end of summer was just making sure that the intersections were clear and visible.
Yep, they hacked up right up front of that place, pretty good. You can definitely see the stop sign and everything now.
They get their pressure washer for $8,000.
They did. It was a little bit more.
That is a pressure washer.
They didn't spend anything on culverts? Or was that through a warrant article? Or that's the subject of a big to-do? I saw a cringe, so.
No, cringe. Well, when you say culverts, yes, we have two rather large ones that we had the warrant article for the engineering on, for Kelsey and Cooper Hill. But yeah, culvert repair, I mean, we haven't had to expend any.
And the plowing on 262, I mean, that was,
That was last
Obviously.
winter.
so, is that something you anticipate needing to budget more funds for? Because we're contracting it out more? Is that?
Part of the issue last year was we were running half-staff. We only had 2 full-time employees and the Public Works Director, so I think that we were relying, on top of the fact that we had some pretty significant snowfall when it finally came, we were relying heavily on our subcontractors as well. So they are lined up for this coming plow season to take care of what were emergency lanes, and then some of the more intricate roads around Nottingham Lake and across Route 4, and of course the school parking lot here, et cetera.
How many plows does the town own?
.300, 301, 302, 303, 5, 6, 5.
Do we have 5 employees that are qualified to use them?
We have 4 right now, and hopefully we'll have hopefully 5 real
Let me
soon.
tell you, Tom,
And then we have
something always
part-timers.
breaks.
Probably one in Maine.
You need a backup truck, I'm telling you.
5 is actually a little scary.
You do.
I'm just wondering if we're gonna be able to plow our own roads, or if we're gonna have to just hire a bunch of people.
We will be able to plow our own
Yeah.
roads. Yep. With the exception, well, I shouldn't say we're not, with the exception of the lake roads, those are all subcontracted out. Our equipment's too big to handle some of them, most of them.
They're not built to recommended standards?
Those roads beat up all
I believe the recommended standards changed, if I remember that correctly.
those roads destroy plow trucks.
John could do it.
Line item 269, are we still using Deerfield sand and gravel?
They are still crushing and screening sand for us, yes.
Because they're killing Deerfield Road, those trucks.
When you say they're crushing and screening it, that's from our sand
From our
pit?
pit, correct.
And we're paying them to do that?
We are not paying them. There is,
There's a kind of barter thing.
That's what I thought. I thought we're like trading material
Correct.
for work.
I can't remember
so
what
the
we're
sandy
bartering.
fill that we don't have a use for in exchange for them to crush and get us winter sand. But there hasn't been any activity. We're behind the ball on that.
How are salt prices looking? Or did we already buy it all?
We just, so it's all state bid pricing, $69 and $71 a ton from Morton and Eastern Materials, which used to be Granite State Minerals. So we just signed the contract with them.
Went down just a hair this year.
Highway looks good on fuel money. Engineering and consulting is down. Is that because we had it through the warrant article?
Yes, and we haven't really had anybody here to explore items that need to be addressed. We haven't, absent a public works director,
What?
been maintaining as items come up right now, but not really forecasting or.
Why is the comment under radio maintenance 274 say telephone and Wi-Fi?
I think because there's no telephone and Wi-Fi line item, so that's where it gets.
Well, because
thrown in there.
telephone's like the next item, 276.
Good question.
Oh, yeah, there's the.
Close.
Well, I mean, I would say that the radio maintenance,
There's
it's,
no so that actually must be a 275 because there's two 276s.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, look at that. I would say that, so there is a cell phone for the public works director that the town pays for, and there's also Wi-Fi for the tablet that we use for the, we just did that culvert maintenance.
So that's like.
Inventory.
So it's like cell phone and a Wi-Fi hotspot or something.
That's what I'm thinking for that, and then, well, they don't have a landline telephone over there, so I'll have to get clarification on what exactly those two figures are. I'm thinking that maybe the narrative, telephone and Wi-Fi should be on the first 276 line item.
And then what the radio, right, because the radio.
But the radio maintenance would actually just be radio maintenance,
Right, because.
but we didn't have any money set aside for it, right?
Let's just clean up stuff. Probably. Looks like we had to do an extra drug test.
New employees. Pre-employment screenings.
288.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of talk about that Bobcat needing to be replaced and all of that. Obviously, it's expensive just to keep running. Is there any thought on where that's going?
The Bobcat, are you talking about the telehandler?
Sure. I'll put up
Telehandler
that.
has been traded for the brand new backhoe that we have over there.
Oh, it did get traded.
Yeah, you didn't see that?
Oh, I
Watching
haven't
him
been to the
today, use
dump in
that
a few
thing's
days,
nice.
Apparently.
I saw the backhoe.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. Man, jealous. Nice backhoe.
They needed that. That Bobcat was under power from when Dawn and Larry was down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, that
The thing
has
has,
been
I seen it today, I was throwing
abused.
stuff in there, the thing has like telescoping arm, it has the fingers, it's
Oh, it's got
nice.
everything it's supposed to?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
it
Yeah,
has
that
a-
poor Bobcat was absolutely abused.
Does that tie into 298 with supplies, equipment, and stickers?
Does what tie into it?
The, any equipment or
No.
Bobcat stuff?
No.
It seems quite an increase there.
Really high.
Yeah, $8,000. Recycling center stickers.
Everything has a note next to it except for that,
Except for that.
Yeah.
the most curious one.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that's like a storage container for tires, or was that the previous year?
I believe that is the storage container for tires. Thanks for bringing that up, Tom, because I'm thinking, I'm like, what did we spend over there that we didn't have a line item for? But yes, so one of the requirements is that the tire storage needed to be undercover. So we looked at adding a roof or a lean-to off the backside of the building, and that came with a quote of about $10,000 and
Would a tarp
That-
sufficed? No?
no. So Sean was able to procure a used storage container for just shy, I think it was just shy of $4,000.
So all the talk of like needing to expand the recycling center, that's no longer a thing?
I think it's still very much a thing there. So we had Northeast Resource Recovery Association come out and just kind of do a facilities assessment. And what she determined during that time is the way that it's operating right now, you know, what they're doing is safe handling, but there's always the need for probably an additional baler or two and for storage and obviously to create better traffic flow patterns. And so there is a need for expansion for a more efficiently run recycling center,
I
but
think efficiency is the thing that really needs to be addressed, and I'll come to the board and I'll share some stuff that I investigated, but I looked into, other areas that have a lot less manual handling of materials and essentially have no employees on site. It seemed to work for decades, so I tracked down companies that make the dumpsters and everything for that. Now, maybe there's a reason it can't be done, maybe there's a state law or something. I know I had talked to Sean about the wood to energy stuff, and there was some state law for some reason all of our wood has to go to Massachusetts to be burned for energy.
Oh, I thought you couldn't move wood state to state.
Well.
That's firewood.
That's
Cordwood's different.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this is,
Sorry.
this is,
I was in the forest, sorry.
Our ash are all screwed anyway at this point, they're all dead, it's fine.
That's good. Is there room to expand at that present recycling site?
It's mostly either wetland or the old
or the old
landfill.
land.
It was sort of a rhetorical question, yeah.
Is there any way we could possibly reclaim any of that old landfill?
No, it's still under monitoring, it will be forever.
Good old days.
I wonder what's buried in there.
Like going back there, they'd let you,
No, you don't.
like, throw stuff in it, stuff they were burning. Yeah, there was something burning, you could throw stuff into it, it was fun. Larry let us do a lot of stuff we probably shouldn't have.
So it's interesting, general assistance is just all zero, so everybody's fine?
Well,
Nobody's needed anything, I guess, or?
Sue Benoit does a very good job of working with agencies that can help assist without,
Yeah.
but, you know,
So
if
we
the need
haven't
arises,
needed to
we have
use
it
any
here.
taxpayer money for general assistance?
Correct,
That's awesome.
yes.
So
Assuming
for
that
all-
people are getting the services that they need.
For all that argument we had last year over the utilities and fuel assistance, no one needed
That can't be.
it. All right.
It's amazing. Yes, it's a good thing.
Yep.
So do we put out RFPs for health and human services? Do we get a report?
They put in a request, and what they'll do is, most of them will provide a letter that say what service they provide to the community, how many residents of Nottingham they serve, you know, what their purpose is,
it
their
possible
mission
to
statement.
include that in the annual report? or-
Absolutely,
I would like to.
yeah. If they have a submission that they would want to add into
They
it.
have to, they legally have to provide a letter asking for it.
Right, but I've never seen.
But as far as reporting in the annual report, I mean, it's at their discretion.
I think the list was in the annual.
Yeah.
The list
think
is, but
it's-
not
The list is.
necessarily like,
I wouldn't
any
put,
type
I
of
wouldn't
alert.
put the letters in there, that's just
No,
gonna
but-
add to the printing costs, but if you could just throw a
How many
PDF on the
people are
website.
served, and what the demographics might be, I mean, would be interesting to know. So these aren't grants that are given to these,
Yep.
it's on a per-use basis?
No,
Nope.
it's
It's a
not
per
a per
request.
use thing. It's, they ask for an amount and we give it to them, and these numbers have stayed the same for at least the
So
last
it's a
4 years.
grant, the money is,
It's not a grant, it's just a request for an appropriation.
okay, so we have given
It's
that
essentially a
amount of money,
donation.
right?
Yes, it is.
sorry, I
It's a
called it
donation.
grant, Yeah, okay, okay.
But
I
I
do
would,
the
I
Ready
would,
Rides thing for Nottingham, and what the Board of Directors does is we write a letter every year requesting the exact same amount, and we get it. And Ready Rides provides services, we have at least 2, maybe 3 volunteer drivers in Nottingham, and we provide free transportation to anyone who's elderly or disabled, and you can be 18 years old. We had an 18-year-old woman who broke her foot, and she needed Ready Rides, not necessarily from Nottingham, but she needed Ready Rides for a while until her foot was, she was able to drive again, and so she was disabled.
The way I've seen other towns handle this is that every year there's there's no reason to think it isn't going just terrifically. These are all wonderful. But if there's no one in town who's using these services, do we ever put out a request to see if there are other worthy services that might be more useful to the town? And I'm not saying these aren't this might be just perfect, but
A lot of
usually
towns
they're.
do it differently. They're normally called outsider health agencies, and some towns will make them petition and get the approval from town meeting as to whether or not they want to support the organization. Others will make them bring in their, a request with their financials, like how their organization is formed and,
Right, like
how
a
many
whole
officers who
RFP,
receives
yeah.
a salary. So there's a lot of different approaches.
I don't think we want to make town meeting any longer, but I think to
No,
satisfy
no,
Charlotte's
but
curiosity and
I
my
am
curiosity, if we could just, when you get all these letters and collect them up, if you can just put them all in one PDF and then we can just send that out when
I
we
can
do
do
the
that.
final budget, vote at the
Yeah.
end of the year. Because they are supposed to provide it by then.
And I don't ask this just to, be a squeaky wheel for no reason, but times change, and sometimes services that are very much needed at one time, as time goes on, there become new health and human services that are offered. For instance, like Crotchet Mountain is a wonderful, wonderful organization. We don't contribute to it probably because, we don't really use
They
it.
have to request it.
Yeah.
So it's even with these organizations, they have to come up with an annual request. They give us a letter by the end of October each year and say, here's our updated statistics, and this is the amount that we're looking to have appropriated for us.
And do we ever say no to any of those organizations?
Yeah.
So I'm imagining it's fairly
Well,
static. which
not
is
that I'm
maybe-
aware of.
It may be static because it's working really well. I just am curious, sometimes, needs ebb and flow, and there are some new organizations too.
I feel like Waypoint and Richie McFarland have merged. Maybe that's they provide early supports and services programming.
Yeah, so this is just based on the request
What they
that came
requested
in
from
for
last year.
2023. It's not reflective of new ones.
Happened to the previous year.
336, did they just, has their conference not happened? Or I guess it says conference
January.
3X,
Times 3 in January.
or they're just not going
Why
anywhere.
am I not seeing three?
You guys
Oh,
do
it's
some
switched to
conferences.
335 on the next page. That's why I got confused. That's
What's out
335.
of order, you?
2 335s.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I was looking
That
at the
should
wrong
be-
spot, so
yep.
then I got very confused. I got it now. I'm good.
38.
Yeah.
I just didn't clean it up.
I'm not sure if they attended conference in January. That was before my time.
This mentions Town Beach. I heard Town Beach is closed.
The town beach is closed, so it's open from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
And I heard that it was a issue of access, like do we not have a right of way?
We do not. We have a verbal agreement from the Fernalds that's been in place. We don't have a written agreement. But that's the wish of the property owner, and I guess that was always part of the agreement. It's just that the beach is open during that time. So that has never actually changed, just people have chosen to park and walk in, and now that's not allowed.
What property do we own? Just
We
that
own-
beach
we
area,
own
just the beach
So it's
area?
technically landlocked.
It's landlocked, okay.
Is there any way to establish legal access to it?
If the property owner would like to give us an easement,
I guess that's probably gonna be no.
Well, I think
But then there's
after they
also
found people
liability.
sitting on their front porch, I believe the opinions of those neighbors soured slightly.
Do they think the town has a house out there for everybody?
Apparently somebody thought that was just a communal space, somebody's front porch, yeah. I heard that was a bit of the rub.
That would be
Yeah.
disturbing.
350, the library salaries is quite a bit under, are they understaffed? Because it says adjusted for fair compensation, but it still seems pretty low relatively speaking.
You have a part-time
they
director.
have a part-time director in place. Our library director left in March, and they have not been able to fill it yet.
Got it.
They did a nice job at the book sale, though. I don't know if anybody went. If you didn't go, you missed out.
Yeah, the Friends of the
It's
Library does
cheap.
a really nice job. It's nice they use that old town hall space as
Isn't
well
it?
now.
I've
They
never
don't-
been in that building before.
Oh, the old
I
town
think a
hall,
lot of
yeah, it's
people
a
have
cool
it,
building,
yeah.
isn't it?
It's a cool building.
If you get into the back, like hallways and those upper stairs, you can crowd them all over to the dead bats to get up to the second floor. Like, very cool space, you just have to.
There's a big old
Main
that metal
space is a little
safe
nicer.
in there too, in the wall, like this 1,000-pound safe in there. It's really cool.
Yeah, there's some really
That's a
neat
neat
stuff in that
building, yeah.
Looks like rec is under on mowing. After all that fighting we did over the mowing.
Well, there's going to be, they're still
Another
doing
bill.
field maintenance and everything. It's, again, delay from the rain that we got in the
I don't know
beginning of the
about you, but I have
season.
not mowed much this year. My grass looks ridiculous every time I get out there.
Did they get, restitution for the vandalism and stuff?
No, no, I don't believe so.
What was the vandalism?
They
That's-
smashed up the
Some signs.
stuff out here, but I had heard that they had figured out who it was and that they were gonna try to get restitution.
Oh,
Yeah, I heard they figured out who it was too.
Seems like that'd be something to pursue.
Library parking lot get paved or
That was
not
an
yet.
engineered or?
It's under engineering now.
Okay. Is
They're
that gonna
working-
happen this year, is fiscal year?
We're at least going to, so there was the $90,000 warrant article, 70,000 which was allocated for the culverts and 20,000 for the library. So they're going through right now and getting all the fine tuning all the details of
Oh,
what
they're
they're
doing
looking
like a
for.
survey or something to figure out
Where the property
line
bounds
actually
are
is.
And they have to deal with the state as well.
for the state highway.
Yeah, and then the drainage from across the street factors in from the
So
other
that
fire.
was a little bit delayed by CMA, our engineering firm, so, I've seen a lot of activity on that for the past month, I'm copied on the correspondence, so that is, it's well underway,
This is the engineering firm, does town use them for everything?
yes. But they're not the
Did
only one.
MRI point us towards them?
What's that?
Have we been using them for a long time, or are they people that MRI
CMA?
sent us?
No, they're not, they have nothing to do with MRI.
Who's the project manager from CMA?
Josh Bouchard.
Okay. Josh is good.
Is historical not doing anything?
Yeah, let's
Being
do
very
that.
kind and keeping their budget low, I guess.
Library get their elevator installed
It
finally?
is, it's installed, they are just waiting on their final state inspection to be good. We had some issues with the communication line, they needed a separate phone line for it, and we had issues getting that taken care of because nobody runs a traditional landline anymore.
But this fire code
Fire code
requirement
requires it.
happened at the school as well, that there has to be an ADA accessible phone in the elevator for emergency purposes,
Push the
attached to a
call
phone
button or
line.
whatever.
We don't have anymore.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
The only-
We would have been better off putting a cell phone in there. But then again, we don't have service for those either.
I was
so-
gonna say, that's not a good zone for cell service.
You'd have to put a Wi-Fi hotspot in there too.
Yeah, but the Wi-Fi doesn't work in a power outage.
Exactly.
Gotta get somebody
How
on the side.
library's telephone go up? They got, we figured this out, they have like a real sweetheart deal for libraries only.
It's part of that wonderful brand new lift that we have. We had to add a new line, new designated line, and that comes with an expense.
Designated line?
A
But this is not an
designated-
enclosed thing, is
In
it?
the elevator. It's
In the
required
elevator.
by the fire code.
But this is not an enclosed elevator,
It doesn't
right? Isn't
matter.
this like a
It's a
open to
lift.
the air?
It's a lift.
The lift.
So once the door if you were trapped inside.
Wouldn't yelling or ringing up, we could just have a bell?
A hammer.
Wow, okay.
But what if there's nobody
What
else?
is it,
What if there's
safety
somebody in the
conference?
building?
It's fire. Fire.
You watch too much Die Hard, I think. Stuck in the elevator. Quick question, I heard the community well froze last year during winter. You know what damage that was?
The community well?
Yeah, the
Rick
well.
Marstad.
Marston?
The irrigation well at the
An
park,
irrigation.
Marston?
the ball field's irrigation well.
I'm not aware of that.
It might have been
I heard
before
the
your
power went out and the heater didn't come back on and it froze. The lines, damaged. I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
When did you start?
Good thing they didn't have the
Yeah,
water.
that's before your time.
That's before- Yeah, but there's
expensive.
been so much discussion about that well, I would have thought that I would have heard of it, so I haven't.
Yeah, maybe it's just a rumor.
I tried to use it, didn't work, so it was shut off. So the community well didn't work, so.
The
I-
water fountain?
And if you're talking
Or the-
about the
that's not a-
bubbler,
Yeah,
that can't work because we're still waiting to get the approval for it to be a public water supply.
Do we have to then, we're responsible for testing and stuff as
Correct.
well?
We will be.
So really, it's only good for sprinklers right now.
It's really just good for irrigation, correct?
So what's the total-
$65,000
So
sprinklers.
if we go through all the approval for that to be a public drinking fountain and all the testing, how much is it gonna cost for one drinking fountain?
$65,000.
But it's not only a drinking fountain, it's a water supply in an emergency situation.
Right, 'cause
Like,
COVID
it's
funds
like
are
bring
used
a
for that, so
half
it has to
liter
be
bottle.
that. It can't be-
But it's not only
you
for
couldn't
that,
use
it's
it for
also for the
sprinklers.
irrigation to maintain the.
I have a well, I can fill your water bottle for you.
Yeah.
What, is it literally gonna be open? Do they have it open in the wintertime just for, as a water, drinking water supply, or is that not the intent?
Not until we are approved for a public water supply.
But is that the intent to be available?
Is there a
Yes, it
plan
could
for
be
like
made available.
a spigot or something that could fill up a bucket, or is it just literally the
You
water
gotta
fountain?
take your time on the bubbler.
Yep.
It's a
Hold
really
up.
slow little,
Hold up your 5-gallon bucket in the bubbler.
and it has no drain.
It doesn't seem,
But
it
you
just
can actually
doesn't,
get the one that
it doesn't
drips
seem
through
like
it,
a
'cause it's
realistic
not piped
community
anywhere.
emergency water.
That is the most expensive sprinkler system I've ever heard of.
Gotta be super
Really,
cool.
is that it, that it only has the bubbler?
Yep.
For the water, right now, it's connected to the irrigation, but there is I think a bubbler was installed, I don't know if that was.
I thought there was a
Cremated.
faucet maybe on
It
the
was
side.
donated.
They had to make
I
it
think,
seem like infrastructure, so.
installed, but
I mean, assuming it's the public safety water supply, I hope there's gonna be a spigot once it gets passed.
Right.
I would
Good.
assume, I think I was told that the water fountain was donated and that installed, but prematurely, because if it's not drinking water, then there should not be a water fountain attached to it
But
that
yes,
people could access.
If it becomes a public water, so if we get the approval for the public water supply, then there will be a source for people to go get water should they need it.
I'm
It's
gonna
just
turn to
like-
people that lived in this town longer. Was that property some sort of environmental cleanup thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So it's gonna be good water, huh?
Well, I don't know, maybe they clean it
Depends on
out.
what the
I
contaminant
feel like
is.
they thought it was gonna be, but
I
it
don't
wasn't
think it wasn't
actually, I
that
think it was
bad.
just a trash cleanup, but I think it ended up not being an environmental.
All right.
It was more, yeah, it's just,
I could be making
it
that
was
up.
an old farm, it was a farm
A bunch of crap down by the
property that
river. Yeah.
Old rusty
Uh,
stuff.
stuff just scattered around.
Does it have a backup, a generator, or is that like, so it's an emergency water supply, but only if the power's on?
Correct.
Okay.
Get you one of those like wish and well things.
Yeah, yeah.
Wheel down a bucket.
Maybe one of those little pumpers.
With no test,
That's a good idea.
no test on the bubble, that doesn't work.
That is a good idea.
It's so great.
Ellen, I have a few questions about impact fees mainly. Do you happen to know about how many homes or developments are going in Nottingham this year or next year?
I don't.
And I don't know where I heard it, but somebody had said up, I think 75 this year and around 200 next year. That sound right, or
As
is
far,
that?
yeah,
Good idea.
I would have to look into the planning board
Okay.
to find out. I don't have that
It's
information.
The reason I'm asking is, so we get these new homes and developments, they create a burden on the town, the roads, the dump, the school. Everybody pays impact fees, but it seems like these impact fees are never used. Like yeah, they're always returned, so are the police and fire and all the entities that are able to use them, do they know how and?
They
So
are
not
for very
all of them.
specified. So it's not all the departments, so they're specifically for the rec, which is for Marston. For the fire department, which the fire department impact fees were used to pay down the bond for the new fire station. So if there's ever expansion there, then that will be utilized. And then, the third one is, which one am I missing? I'm sorry, I'm tired.
You've answered a lot of questions.
School,
now.
is the school.
The
sorry?
school, yes,
The
so
school.
so the
expansion.
school. So we only have those three,
Rec, fire, and school are the
Correct.
ones that can use them?
yes.
So there's specific fees for each.
So if you go onto
Area.
the.
And
pla-
only in a specific way.
In a specific way. If you go onto the planning board's page, they have a CIP section and it defines what each can be used for. The rec, you'll see, there's a huge report on Marston, based on their conceptual design that was back in 2000, whenever.
Who's not spent the fees? Because they've been returned, right?
Quite a few. So, if we don't expend them within 5 years, they're returned to the property
What
owner.
is the impediment to using these fees? Because the
They
school
have to-
likes to spend money.
It has to be used for a building expansion. And so if a building expansion
Yeah.
doesn't pass in the town, like previous ones that were brought to vote, we cannot, the fire station every year took all those impact fees and put it to the bond. But if a building does not pass and there's no building
And it has to be an
It has to be for-
expansion, not an increase in features, like.
No, so it's a pretty specific, when they do an impact fees, kind of, they do a report and see what they need to collect them for. You can't just say like, we need some impact fees so they have to do so there's a report and it's determined, there's a dollar amount associated depending on the single family homes. There's, a formula that's, charged, and so, but for the building, generally it has to be, it's a build, it's kind of construction based, so we couldn't just like buy more desks, or there's really pretty stringent requirements to that.
Construction, or could it be used for a modular?
So it could be used for some sort of addition. So the school board is looking into some sort of prefab. So it's kind of a little bit of a mix between a modular and a full build. Currently, the school board is discussed last night looking to do an RFI, so looking for more information so we can get some rough dollar amount estimates to see what that would be. We know what the full build was, and so the big expense is, the
Site work.
construction and site work. So looking at that, depending on how we get those numbers, it certainly could be used. The issue becomes, the school board, when we put forward a warrant article, unless we have the entire amount to use from impact fees, it still says we have to raise and appropriate this much money, but annually, all those impact fees could be used for that and then offset what has to be collected in taxation, but we don't have that number of what we'd collect next year, so on the warrant article, it still says the full amount to be raised and appropriated. So it gets really difficult to sometimes put that information out to voters, like when I know when, I think probably the first time the building came up, the intent of the school board at that time was if the building addition had passed, that the whole first year of interest could be paid with what we have, because there's $300,000 in impact fees right now, and every month they're just returned. So after 6 years have expired, it gets returned. So, because of the restrictions of what they can be spent on, it is fairly limiting.
When you say after 6 years, they get
Returned to the
returned?
person who paid it.
Oh, so the
So if
person,
you build a
property
house, the property owner, it depends on who pays it, but it's returned to the person.
How much in impact fees have been returned in the last, say, like 5 years?
Hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands?
Yeah.
So we could have took the hundreds of thousands and bought like a small modular office trailer or something that could be used for, because I'm always told there's lots of space issues for this and that, and I'm not saying
So we
have
could
a
use-
classroom in a small little trailer, but certainly
So
like office
we
space.
can't use it for like storage units or something like that. That does not
No, but
fit
like
with
the teacher's lounge or whatever, some sort of.
We don't have one anymore, but
instruction.
yes.
You're kidding.
So it's a preschool classroom, but,
Right.
but again, because it's
It
the
doesn't have to be
language of the
instructional
impact
space, it could
has
be
to be
office.
related to growth
Yeah.
of the,
Don't
again.
know.
But
We'll
you-
do this every week.
You've had a lot of growth in like non-teacher positions, like paras and other administration and stuff, right?
Well, and there's growth in how we provide special,
Yeah.
student service and things like that. But again, some of those things they have to pass
Yeah.
the voters to then be able to expend those. Unless it's less, if the school board can, if it's under the 300,000 we currently have, could petition to use those currently.
Well,
So-
and if you had other hundreds of thousands before, I mean, if you would have put a warrant article out that said, hey, we want to buy a small office trailer and we have all the money we need in, if we have all the money we have in impact fees and it's not going to cost the taxpayer anything,
I don't think
I
you
would
could
have
use it
voted
for
for it.
just.
well, but
office
it does
space.
cost
That's
some
about-
taxpayers
It-
something, because the impact fees are going back to.
it's true,
some
there's
of
no
that
free
tax.
lunch, but
So,
it would have sold me, I think.
but they also, it could not just be like our SAU offices couldn't go in those, because it's not student fixed. So again, because of the language
It has
of
to be
the
student-centric,
impact fees,
right?
it has to be
What about like
related to
the
the
principal's
student.
office?
I
I don't
I don't
think
know.
so. I really think it has to be like
You'd
classroom.
be surprised, it's
I read
pretty
it.
restrictive of what,
It was
Yeah,
weirdly
probably.
restrictive.
You probably could do something like that if you allocated space differently. So the current principal's office now becomes a classroom or
Right.
whatever. And now you have to put the
And-
principal someplace else.
Meet the criteria to do so.
Yes, so there has been discussion at the board level, and it's, they have over the years really taken other spaces and reconfigured them, and we've looked at, well, if $40,000 is gonna be returned in the next 6 months, is there a way that we could use a space in our building currently to reconfigure, utilize those funds? But again, then there's a small window when you can actually do those things, and it's in the summer when there's no students in the building. So that initially was floated last spring for facilities to kind of look into.
Your new addition plan with the modulars, when, you're not putting that on the warrant article this
No,
year,
we-
that's gonna be next year.
Yeah.
And so that wouldn't be paid for until presumably like the summer of 2025? Something like that? I'm assuming you would do the construction of the summer.
So the thought of a prefab kind of building is that because it's constructed off-site, it can be installed much more quickly. The thing that becomes difficult is if it's above a certain amount of money and it has to go to bond, then you have to wait for bond time. So you have to, it's January or July, and then if you don't have funds until July, so you can't do site work until July. So it definitely becomes a timing. That's why we wanted to investigate more in our end to push it out, to not try to put it on the ballot in March, but really look at a timeline of how we could manage and include the impact fees that do.
So it's fair to say that this is not getting built for at least a year.
No, right now, since the board voted, not last night, but our previous meeting, to hold off, that it would not be something that happens this summer and into next
So my
fall.
question would be, if it's something that's not gonna happen for like a year and a half or so, how much in impact fees are gonna get returned between now and then?
I don't have that list. There's like a master
There is a
list,
master
so.
list.
I'm guessing it's like $100,000 or maybe
So-
a little less.
Where do we find, where is
I
that
don't know.
list?
Betsy has it. She has a spreadsheet.
It's a spreadsheet, and it literally shows each
Trying to spend
how it
everything.
was paid in and when it'll be returned to them, their expiration.
I have a burning question about this too, not about the school, but should the fire station be expanded to become a municipal safety complex?
That's been one
Or
of
the
the,
police
that's been one of the
station.
discussions.
Does it fall under the impact if it's police?
No, so it would have to be an expansion of the fire department and then converted for use to the police department.
Or could there be
But-
a study to look at impact fees to
For the police
include
department.
police
Fine.
department?
Add another
and
garage
or
for a fire
roads?
truck and make it a police
The planning
station.
board is in the process of
There is that extra bay there.
reviewing them because they're impact fees. They have to review them once every 5 years, so they're in the process of starting that.
Maybe we can reword the school one to
Listen, I'm still waiting to use the
a
community
little less
well.
restrictive.
So, but
there's an
there
extra
was
day.
talk at CIP last year about, that the police, does need additional space, and if it would make sense to look at, from the planning board's point of view, to look at something like impact fees to support the police, as well.
Well, it's like a chess game, but if we could get the police out of here,
Right.
because this isn't an appropriate space for them, then we could possibly do something with this that would make enough room to get us through.
But yeah, the impact fees go through the planning board.
Okay, wow.
So the planning
Whole new
board
possibilities.
decided rec, fire, and school?
Correct.
And they can't add anybody else in there, the police or anything?
So they
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 can.
can.
They
They
can
can.
create, they can create.
Under their review,
And it's under
absolutely.
review right now?
I believe it's, yes, because they were supposed to.
It's actually.
It's past due, yeah.
So
I- I
say
was gonna say-
citizens could write
They
in
could-
or visit the
They could
planning
also
board?
say, we don't need to do impact fees anymore and stop them. That is also under their.
So the actual impact fees themselves are established by a third-party organization. You have to go out and people do, there's a whole.
It's a
group
study.
of people
It's a
that
study.
Do it, and they do it, it's all external. The planning board can vote to adopt the recommendations or not, but it's not like the planning.
And this
board's
is a
actually
private
making-
company that does this, or is it
I think so.
state?
I think it's a profit company, at least the last one that we ran through did.
Thank you.
But they make the recommendations, they make the determinations based on your needs and how they evaluate them, and then they make a recommendation to the planning board. It's not really the planning board saying, we want this, this, and this, and this. It's somebody else coming in that the planning board hires and.
To set
they-
the fee, but they
they
establish
set.
the criteria.
That's good to know.
They
Yes.
set the
That's
fee, but the
required by
planning
state
board can
law?
determine where the monies go.
Correct.
Oh, and that's.
Well,
Well, it's based on
They can
the
determine
purpose.
what they want them to look at.
Yes, and there's a
But
purpose.
they can't tell them where it goes.
You could, Marston's quite interesting, so it looks at the Marston one is the most recent one I've read, because it's the most recently adopted new impact fees. And they looked at the, population and what the, additional families moving in would increase the need for recreational space beyond what we have, so they study the space here, and they look at all of that and make a determination, because they looked at a community center and but that was kind of too big, so they looked at a few things, and then.
So that private company would have been tasked with looking at the recreation needs of the town. And then that's what the recommendation came up with. It wasn't go see if Marston is a good field for us, or even see if we need another field. It's see what increased capacity within the town, increased population is gonna do in terms of impacts and demands on this item, recreation, or,
Is
school
that-
buildings.
Is that all mandated by state law essentially, the way that works with paying a private company
Yeah,
to do that?
I
Okay.
think so. It's all set through all the planning and zoning laws.
For the school capacity, I know Bob had talked about before, the original design of the school, had for a certain number of students.
600.
My understanding is we have less students than that, but we're running into these space issues. I mean, what ultimately is driving that if the school capacity is has less students than it was designed for? I know Tom had mentioned something about extra paraprofessionals. I mean, is that really the ultimate cause that we're employing more teachers and paraprofessionals and we're looking for office space? I'm just trying to figure out
No,
why we're having these space issues if we actually have less students than what it was designed for.
So there's capacity of how many people can fit in a building versus how many, you can, looking at state standards for how many students should be in a class, right? They allow for up to 30 students in a class. That's certainly not best practice. So you could fit 30 students in each of the classrooms. One of the issues that Nottingham has run into in the last few years is you have these really big ebbs and flows of how many students are in a grade. And so our current first grade class is 66, so maybe even higher. When they were in kindergarten, that's a lot of students in a kindergarten size class. That's above what the recommended students are. We typically have 3 classes per grade. One of the things that did put a little stress on the building is enrollment numbers don't look much different, but when we went from half-day to full-day kindergarten, all those students were counted in enrollment, but half the kindergartners were not there. Half the day, right, everyone wasn't in the building at the same time. So moving to full-day kindergarten did necessitate a whole classroom needed for kindergarten, which took away a classroom from the other grades. So there's been a shuffle in that. The other thing is we've designed the building differently. School is run differently than when we were all in school. They have tried to have spaces for students who need to meet in small groups, different types of things like that. So there's not, I know when I was in school, there was like a resource room down the hall, and then everyone else was in the classroom, and instruction is provided very differently now. So some of the needs of the building and how we've utilized the space have changed because of our instructional model and how we're providing students their education. And again, some of it's just best practice with how many students we put in a room. The other thing that some small schools do is mixed grades. So they have, which is not typically best practice, to say, well, we only have one room here and too many first graders and not enough, we'll just kind of throw first and second grade into the same classroom and make it work. And so because of those changes, really has been the kind of stress on the building. They've made like a, little extra reading room that used to be the janitor's closet. So there's still like half a janitor's closet and a sink in there, and then you go past that and that's where the students work. So they've taken every space that's in the building to make it as student friendly as possible, but they also have students in the hallways out, which is not ideal for students.
And would I be
privacy.
correct in assuming too that there are more pull-out services to meet the needs of kids for behavioral needs, speech therapy, occupational therapy, that type of thing?
So some of those services still happen, but yeah, in wherever they can
It can't
find
happen in the middle of
space.
a large classroom or in
Right,
a hallway. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, what is the current enrollment, by the way? I meant to
I
ask.
don't know, we actually asked last night, we have not, our new superintendent didn't realize that was something we would typically receive, so we said, we'd like an enrollment report, and so we haven't seen one for this school year yet at all. So I would not have any numbers for that. for you, but I'll-
that would-
but I'll- but
I'll email.
I'll- but I'll get some, I'm hoping it's in our next packet, because we asked for it.
That's really good to know. In
Yes.
case there's a fire, I do tabletop fire drills at
Well,
work,
no, so-
and we have to know where everybody's at.
They
How many
know, but the
people.
school board was not told, because we see typically grade numbers, we know how many are in a
Gotcha.
grade and things like that. So we do know, I do know that there are some grades that are larger, that they can fluctuate 20 students per, and it's just what our enrollment looks like. You could go from 50 to 70, depending on what grade you have.
Right, what grade you're at. Now, I thought there was one grade was only 2 classes, you know, you
There
said 3.
is still one grade with 2
Yes,
classes.
I knew that, and I figured what it is, second or,
Current, second
I'm
or
not
third.
sure.
I'm-
So
I
there
don't-
is an extra, class, and usually the teachers is the floor, you don't wanna fire someone, try to hire someone the next year, cause
You
you
can
to
teach
fill
second
that
grade, you can
class.
teach third.
Right.
I don't,
There was.
Oh, yeah, they
there
do
was-
move around, yeah.
They move staff, I mean, they need to based on
Yeah.
that, and currently, we don't have an extra room, so even if we wanted to break a classroom, the last few years, it's been kind of, this is the smallest class, so they get 2. And, this past year, there was discussion, I know this is really off topic for budget, but, there was a discussion, about this, one of the smaller grades is actually, my youngest son's grade is 6th grade, but we, as a school board, felt strongly that the middle school model of having a math teacher and a science teacher, and our middle school teachers are certified in a one area or 2, and so they are one of the smaller classes, and so to take out a middle school teacher would upend kind of the model that we have
Yeah,
in middle school, and so that was kind of that proposal was rejected, because we have a really strong middle school, and so the feeling was that that wasn't gonna be touched, and so one of the other grades that may have had a little higher numbers had to go to 2. But it fluctuates significantly year to year. And
right, I didn't think all teachers can teach every grade, like, my neighbors are all teachers, and they're like, I can only teach this and this, I didn't
they
know.
have a certification for a range of grades, or if you're,
Okay.
if you're a middle school math certified, you shouldn't be teaching kindergarten, I mean,
Gotcha.
you could probably walk in a kindergarten class, but for certification wise, they're certified for typically an age span. So
Right.
usually the teachers that are moved are 2nd, 3rd, 4th,
Gotcha.
kind of somewhere in
Very
that
limited.
range, or kind of, and they're often, they're asked, and we do what we do, but.
Overall, though, if you look at the enrollment at the school from when it was built in '96, it's pretty flat. It went up a little bit in the late
It
teens
is.
there, went down a little bit for the pandemic, but we're about 20 or so above when it
We'll
was.
see what
So add
happens.
the
when
max.
it's-
So the big thing is, again, those kindergartners, so those numbers don't look different, but when they had half-day kindergarten, there was, if you're counting 50 kids, but only 25 of them were in the building at once, that is a full classroom of students that doesn't account for that. The enrollment numbers, the NESDEC, which we look at future planning, does look at, when they're, pulling permits and stuff for building, it does have a significant increase in the next, I don't know it off the
There's
top of
a
my
lot
head,
of
but,
building.
but there is
Yeah.
a spike projected.
But it always does.
Which,
It always has that spike.
Well, just to bring it all the way back to Brent's original question, the enrollment has been pretty flat. The number, the class size hasn't really changed much, so the number of teachers is pretty much similar to when the school opened. It's the growth in these paraprofessionals and these therapists and extra people and administrative costs. And so they're much, they're less efficient in the way they do the teaching. If you look at the number of people that are employed there, it's the town's largest employer by far. But that's not your guys' fault. I did some reading. It's all federal law with the IDEA Act and
So
federal
it's,
law.
so first, the IDEA is
Not
first,
federal mandates.
first special education. So and this, if anyone's been on this budget committee and has looked at school budgets, it's far more expensive to take a student out of that school and send them somewhere else. So even though you may need an additional adult to be with a student, that is
Lot
far
cheaper.
more inexpensive to have that student in the classroom with an extra adult. However, sometimes those students do need behavioral supports that happen outside of the classroom. And so the student population that we see varies significantly. And so year to year, also, you know, there are students who have significant needs, and we try as much as possible to keep those students
Well,
in
it's
the building.
inclusive, yeah.
Well, we were seeing up to $100,000 for children to be in an outside school, I remember.
Even more than that.
Pardon?
Yeah.
More than
With-
that,
Including
right.
transportation
The
goes significantly higher
transportation
than
gets
that.
ridiculous.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm new to reading about all this. One of the big changes with the federal law and stuff was that they mandated that kids with special needs were to be kind of included in the regular classroom as much as possible, you know, to that degree, so that there's not as much of when I was in school in the 90s, we had a special ed class, and it was a
Right.
separate
Right.
room, and it was, you know,
Right.
one teacher. So
Yeah.
now where there
Maybe
may have
different
been
needs,
20
yeah.
students in there with one special ed teacher, now it is
So it's called
a
the least
paraprofessional in
restrictive
every.
environment.
When did those new laws that he's talking about go into effect?
1990,
Oh, a long time ago.
don't quote me, well, so there's been changes to the IDEA law, and it continues to
So it's
change.
changed and
But
developed,
there
okay.
was significant legislation in 96
It was
or 7, maybe?
Yeah, there was like another one
With
around
IDEA was a
2002 or
And then there's
5
another,
or
so
something like that.
it's called least restrictive environment, and it requires that you have a student in the least restrictive space, which is having a student with their same age peers as much as possible, and that you have to justify why they would not be with their peers. So it is federally mandated to provide these additional services, which do require space and
Employees.
employees
And there was
and
a
funds.
lawsuit recently where they ruled that, I guess the cost, the extra cost could not be one of those factors for why they couldn't be
Gotta
entered.
get
So
this-
that's why
I think we
we,
gotta get the
Yeah.
state of New Hampshire to take, ownership of it, because really,
so,
obviously, it belongs to.
right, but
to
this
them,
this
and
explains a
that's
lot
them.
of what I've wondered about, which is why we have like 2 teachers in every classroom essentially.
The-
Not 2 teachers, a
There's-
teacher and a
it's-
paraprofessional.
It's the paraprofessionals, but they're written in students' individualized education plans, they're mandated to be there. I am a speech language pathologist, and I work at a school, so I'm just, but these are things that are required, they're federally required, and the schools have to provide them, whether you have it in your budget or not, it has to be paid for. That's why we have a special capital reserve fund. The student moves into town that has significant needs, we have to pay for it.
The other question I wanted to ask, you talked about the maximum allowed in a classroom is like 30, but obviously, well, you said that that's the max allowed, but we prefer a smaller number. What's the smaller number that you prefer?
So there's 2, so there's a strive goal, this is state driven, there's a strive goal, and it varies, so it's 25 in the upper grades, and I think it's 20 in the like K to 3, don't quote me on that, we just heard these numbers last night, and then 25 for the,
Does it allow some flexibility, like if you have 52 students in a grade, you can have 26?
yes, so
Or
the
27?
Just a
stri-
recommendation.
The strive goal is you strive to put that many in the classroom, 30 is kind of the limit. But we strive, so what they're saying is you should strive to have 25 or less, right? And so if you have to put 20, no one's, there's no problem if you put 26, but what they're saying is it's educationally not gonna be best practice for the classroom education.
If you think about, too, the idea of one teacher having 25 kids in a classroom for a full day, managing behaviors and instructing, that's a special place in heaven for whoever can do that.
And I will tell you, classrooms look different nowadays.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the students that we're serving in these classrooms are in
Have
a
needs.
different.
How much of that is the federal least restrictive?
Oh,
the
I
fact
would
of
say
that?
a significant, there's also, this is probably a separate topic, but of, increased diagnosis of autism, ADHD, those are things that have you know, kind of increased over the years of students that are served in the general, you know, in a regular ed classroom, so.
And post-COVID needs too,
Yes.
yeah.
I think we've reached the end of this.
Yes, I was gonna say, that's a big.
You even think we've reached the end? Holy cow.
Oh my
I
God,
was
Tom,
being a
waving the
white
right-
saying white flag Brett Mead, but damn it, we had.
Thank you.
People's alarms are going off. We're walking.
Just waving the white flag.
Sounds like no committee reports and
No committee reports?
There's no committees that, CIP is
No.
still not, and I don't,
I seen Tim during voting, a while ago, he's
I think
still
they're
waiting
waiting on
for.
planning board.
Waiting on planning board? I don't think we're waiting on planning board, because the planning board put it out to the Board of Selectmen as to whether it was going to be a Board of Selectmen committee or the planning board. So the board agreed that it would continue under theirs. So there's been the establishment of the committee, which I know you have been reported as the budget committee rep. There was a planning board rep assigned that Tim just got notified of at the meeting Monday. We have a citizen rep.
Oh,
Maureen Campiola has put in her name.
okay.
So I think it's there. I think it's just a matter of scheduling the first meeting,
Okay.
so.
I don't have much to report on school facilities.
we've heard a lot about schools.
I feel like I'm good. Unless anybody has specific questions, we're meeting on the 22nd, so
We'll talk to you next month. How's that sound?
that works.
Other business? Thank you, Ellen, for sitting on the hot seat,
You're
answering
Yeah.
1,000 questions. Megan, thank you,
Both
you're
of
always
you,
prepared.
yeah, thank
And
you.
always answered 1,000 questions, it seems.
Appreciate it.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Motion by Owen Friend Gray, seconded by John Decker. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
You did
Ellen.
a great job, yeah.